The All Things TechIE podcast is a product of the Extreme Media Network. For advertising and sponsorship opportunities, please visit www.extrememedia.ie. That's XTREME media.ie.
Welcome along. It's the All Things TechIE podcast, episode 58. Thanks for joining us. My name is Justin Dawson, and as always, if you'd like to get in contact with the program, you can visit our website at www.allthingstech.ie. You can tweet AV Tech Junkies, or you can comment on the show at Justin or Dawson. It's my personal Twitter handle, and all the details on our official website www.allthingstech.ie. In this episode, we're talking about, finally, a sigh of relief. And courtesy of Foils and Hogs, this video, you can finally leave WhatsApp groups silently this month.
Oh, bloody WhatsApp group. Wait, that's it, I'm leaving it.
So you want to leave the WhatsApp group?
You want to leave the WhatsApp group?
He wants to leave the WhatsApp group.
Yes.
And why?
Why are you leaving?
Why, Kevin, why?
What, there's just so many messages.
We're your friends.
Don't you like your friends?
No, I like my friends, yeah.
Don't you like Saturday morning frisbee?
Well, yeah, but it's not about frisbee anymore. It's just got tons of memes and gifs and... Does anybody know a good plumber? It's like every time I open my phone, there's 300 unread messages.
It's just banter.
Everyone likes banter.
Well, no, it was Jen's birthday last month. I mean, like 75 identical messages all wishing her a happy birthday.
And what's the matter with that?
Don't you want her to have a good day?
Oh, yeah, sure, but I hardly even know her. I mean, she's in my phone as Jen Frisbee.
You know what? You can leave. That's fine. We don't mind.
Oh, yeah?
Of course.
Yeah, no one's standing in your way.
Oh, okay.
But you know what'll happen then?
What will happen then?
Everyone will talk about you.
Why did he leave?
What's his problem? Doesn't he like us? Something we said.
Oh, no.
On and on it'll go.
And you won't even know what they're saying.
Because you left.
Don't go.
No, it doesn't matter. I've had enough, okay? I'm leaving.
Fine, but you can't go now.
Why not?
Well, Max is just writing something. If you go now, he'll take it personally.
Poor Max.
What has he got against Max?
He doesn't like Max.
No, I like Max.
Well, that's not what Max is going to think.
It doesn't matter. Look, I've got to go. There's never going to be a good time.
Well, then how are you going to hear about Frisbee if you leave the group?
But they send me a text message.
Will they?
A text message? No one uses regular texts anymore.
But they'll call me then.
Call you? On a phone? Be reasonable.
Remember what happened when Darren left the group?
Who?
Exactly.
No, Darren. I remember Darren. I went to school with him. He's one of my friends.
When was the last time you saw Darren at Frisbee?
Oh, no. I was meant to call him.
Oops.
Ow.
No, I'm going. Where's the exit button?
So that's it, you're just gonna leave?
Yeah, the settings.
You're not even going to write anything, just go. Wow.
Chat settings.
You know, all it's gonna say is, Kevin left, that's it.
That's cold, Kevin.
Notification settings.
That's all we're getting after all this time.
So cold, Kevin.
There it is, yes!
You can never leave, Kevin. Never!
Yes, we've been waiting for that moment for Facebook or Meta to tell us that, you know, that WhatsApp group that you've been involved in for months and years that you want to secretly leave and tell no one, or the Irish goodbye. You can now do it. It's brilliant. So that's coming up later on in the program. We will be talking about different WhatsApp groups that you have been involved in. We would love to hear from you. Comment at allthingstech.ie, or you can tweet us, or you can get involved by sending us a message through our website. What has been the most annoying WhatsApp group that you have ever been in that you have secretly wanted to leave, or the Irish goodbye and get out of? We want to hear your funniest comments, and we'll include them in next episode of the All Things TechIE podcast. We'd love to hear what you did. Did you silence the group for a year? Why did you want to leave the group? So the funniest comments to allthingstech.ie, and we'll include them in the next episode of the program, episode 59, and we'll give away some prizes as well for the best answers. Here's another one of an administrator telling people that they can't leave their WhatsApp group. How dare they leave that WhatsApp?
You do not leave a group. You wait, you either private message somebody and say, please remove me from the group, but you do not start this rebellion by removing. Do you know how many people want to leave that group? I'm the administrator and I want to leave the group. You cannot do that. Hello? Yeah. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put you back on the group, and then I will remove you from the group. Okay. But you're going to say, I'm sorry, that was a mistake. Okay? We cannot have this. We cannot have people just remove. Do you know how many groups I'm part of that I've never even opened up the message once? But you just cannot leave. There's no social. You do not know social normalcy. You never, ever, ever leave a WhatsApp group.
Now, as I had mentioned before, listeners, I have an autistic pre-verbal son that I fight for day and night for against the healthcare systems in Ireland, and of course education, and trying to get him the proper placements in schools. But because he's pre-verbal, when I read a story recently on a family support group of a pre-verbal autistic child who was a flight risk and got out of the house and was found by the guards, but the guards didn't know where this child had come from, it scared me and wanted me to look into some technology to make sure that like my son would never go missing and have no contact details on him. Now, of course, there's the type of Apple Watches that a 5-year-old, you don't give a 5-year-old an Apple Watch or as a tag, or even the Apple tags, you know, could go missing. So earlier on, I caught up with Lee Cunningham, who has a website called U-ID-Me, set up a couple of years ago, and Lee explained to me what his product does to protect both children and people that have medical conditions that may be found that need medical assistance. Have a listen to this. So Lee, first off, thank you for joining us on the All Things TechIE podcast. How I came across UID-Me is a story, and I even spoke to Lee about this via email. There was my son's autistic and going on 5 years of age in about 2 weeks' time, pre-verbal. And I read on a family forum, an autistic support group family forum, that a child of 10 or 11 years of age that was pre-verbal that went missing, and ended up that a adult found her and brought her to the police station, and sort of that's where it lies. And that scared the crap out of me, you know, thinking that, like, especially knowing that my son is a flight risk. I'd say, like, is this one of the reasons that UID-Me came around, Lee? Or, like, how did this concept come around? Because what I did afterwards is I found Lee's site, got a Velcro bracelet, a child's Velcro bracelet with an ID card. I'm not going to ruin all the questions I have for Lee today, but with an ID card, it's an NFC, it can be scanned, and I know straight away if someone scanned it and alerts me to someone's found my child. But that's just one side of Lee's whole project. So Lee, talk us through how UID came around.
Okay. How far back do you want me to go?
As far back as you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I obviously, you know, you come on podcasts, and I did a little bit of looking at yourself, and I looked at your podcast and looked at what you and Simon do. And then I had a little snoop at your own website as well, because obviously it invites you to do that. And I quickly realized, I thought, well, actually you've done a lot in audio visual, and that's what you love, and that's your passion. And so going right back, I mean, I'm coming up 52 this year, but when I left school and went to college, I started. It was back then at Salford Technical College back then, which was it was a sound recording course.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and it was an ND, a national diploma in electronic engineering as well. However, I quickly realised when we was messing around with circuit boards that I was colourblind, and so yeah. So I know. So I went working for British Telecom, where I spent 15 years with BT. And took early release, and whilst there, you know, you get developed, and they sent me on all kinds of courses, one of which was to write code for like websites really, but PHP code, and looking at SQL as well. Mm-hmm. And then I left BT, I went working for a borough council eventually, didn't like that. And then in 2012, I set up my own company. Now, the reason I did that is because I actually created a reflector for cyclists and runners. And to supplement the sales of that, I bought in some wristbands, which were very similar to the ones that you bought for your own son, but they were reflective. Because it kind of, to me, it had a safety aspect, it was reflective. So I thought, well, the two go together. And then I realized that this company also manufactured a range of medical ID bracelets as well. So I thought, well, we'll try them. And they were brilliant. Now, they were exactly the same as what you bought for your son. But I also have a daughter who's much older now, but she has cystic fibrosis. And therefore she has a lot of medications. And I remember her saying, I gave her one of these bracelets, Justin, and I said, there you go, use this. It's a great idea. But this was kind of pre any tech with it. It was just very rudimentary. You wrote your details on the cards that go inside the sleeve. And she said, Dad, if you think I can fit all my medications on that, then you must be out of your mind. So what I did was then I looked, well, how could we fit more inside there? And the answer was NFC, an NFC tag on the back of the card, a little bit like a library book, like the very wafer thin. It was about 14 mil wide, and you could just store enough information on there for a URL.
Yeah.
So I thought, brilliant. If we could put also a QR code with that as well, a unique ID, and then if it's scanned or it's read with an NFC open device, then of course we can take someone to a page. And if we can take them to a page, well, you've got unlimited kind of information that you could store there on. And that was it really. She was my first non-paying customer. And back then, it wasn't a coded website so much, but I was keeping, updating everything for people in those early days. But obviously it ran away with me, and I quickly had to get the website developed, I said professionally, so that people could update their own profile, log in, it'd be secure environment and what have you. So the original idea was my own daughter, who has she had multiple medical conditions, and it was fitting as much information as possible into that bracelet. From there, then I, as one of the kind of developments of the product was to be able for it to alert people. So this is where, if somebody scans or reads the bracelet, the QR code or the NFC tag, or indeed puts the unique ID into the web portal, then that can not only give a paramedic or a first responder the information about that person, but also to notify their emergency contacts.
And that is so crucial. That is so amazingly crucial. That I just find that like I was testing it out, and I know you have a demo version, and then I subscribed. That the fact that is that I could see straight away who that person is that has access to the page and their number. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and then that actually came as a later development. So one of the issues was we're getting false negatives, I think you would call it. So basically, from time to time in the early days of once we'd introduce the alerts, people would say, someone would get in touch and say, I've just had an alert to say my husband's got a problem, and he sat right next to me on the couch watching TV. And it might be because he put his mobile phone in his pocket, and he has a card or a bracelet or whatever, and it just activated it. So obviously we then incorporated. It's basically like before it sends any alert, it warns the person that's read the code to say, we're going to send an alert. Would you like to pass on your details? So they can, if they've got time, then they can put, obviously Joe Smith, paramedic, whatever, and their number. So then it bridges the gap between the first responder and the emergency contacts, which has been good. Customers tell us they love that.
Yeah, no, I like, and it was like a pop up that came up on the page that straight away, which is fantastic. That, and as you say, if they have time, they can use it.
Yeah.
Like what I really like about the bracelet is not only the NFC, but it's a Velcro. Like when you have an autistic child, like
Yeah.
I've looked at other things like that you can have little wristbands. I thought the wristband would be too loose, or would he mouths everything, so he chews everything. So I was thinking, is he going to try and chew this bracelet off? But it's waterproof. You've given a good few different. The Velcro is strong, so like even if he gets a bit of the Velcro off, I noticed before he's teared it off completely, and. Like you have a bit of a range of these products. Like you designed some that were necklaces with just the web address or the ID code on it. But have you ever thought of, like, with the actual bracelet itself, making it an NFC just without the piece of paper, or do you think the piece of paper is vital?
Well, it's possible to get an NFC, what they call a laundry tag. So,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
have you seen these? There's
Yes.
like little Smarties. It looks like a little plastic button, and there's a possibility that could go underneath one of the. They're all embroidered tags, as you know, on the fabric bracelet. So there's a possibility because they're very flat and they're very small, and I think it would definitely hold the number of characters that we, the constraints of a URL, for example. I think what steered me away from that was that at the time, the problem is Apple. At the time, Apple, the NFC encoder inside the Apple iPhones was locked down basically for the Apple payment system. Now, I don't use Apple; I use Android.
And similar, yes, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't like being locked down.
No, well, exactly, and I can't stand, all the proprietary technology when you kind of force down a certain avenue is why I don't like the Apple system. But who can argue with such a high kind of user population? So one of the original concerns was, UID relies on a constant stream of people purchasing products. So when they get the products, obviously they all get the unique ID, and then it's up to them whether, of course, they register it. Now, it'd be very easy for them with some of our products, such as the Velcro band, to not register. They might just want to keep it really simple. They might have, privacy kind of concerns where they just want to keep it really simple and write a couple of emergency
numbers on
there. And who can blame people for that these days? But obviously, it is a numbers game. So I would say it's well over 70%, because people know up front when they buy our products that what they're capable of. But in the early days, it was more of a case of they bought the wristband, and then when they got it, they got the little brochure like this, and they thought, oh, what's this? And then they kind of, that's what caused it to grow so quickly. Because I think people just thought, well, this is a good idea because I can store multiple medical conditions and all the medications and what have you. So back to the NFC, it was really Apple. Now, it may be now that you can get like a plug-in for the latest iPhone that allow you to use the NFC decoder inside the phone for things other than Apple mobile payment. I'm not sure, but what I have found is that our metrics show us that QR is always more popular than NFC, and the unique ID, actually physically typing it into the portal, is even more popular. It wins hands down. It's like nine out of every 10.
Right. Okay. And that's and it's great that you actually have those type of stats to hand to say that, like, what you can use, because I also thought afterwards, and like you even mentioned, I wouldn't want my son wearing a wristband and giving a false negative to someone that has their phone in their pocket. He might swipe off someone's jeans, and then all of a sudden I'm getting an alert saying And that is like, I know you have increased the security of someone having to put in their details or whatever, but if that popped up on a random person's phone on a train or on a bus, that's yeah. So but people probably would say, when like, oh, okay, UID, fine, that's all well and good, but there's technology out there. Why don't you give a kid a phone? And they go, yes, you can give a kid a phone, but you can, for people that have children with additional needs, this is a great product. And people have turned around to me before and said, oh, you can buy watches that have trackers that could, but again, the same thing. It's like, it's an electronics. It's keeping the device charged at all times. The lovely thing about a bracelet like this is you're relying on the person that has found the child, whether they've had a medical condition or whether they have gone lost, that they can literally take out this tag, piece of paper, QR code, or the NFC, or just read the numbers attached to it and be able to make the emergency contacts, which is fantastic.
Yeah. I definitely agree with what you're saying there. Firstly, back to that point what you raised about like the false negative. Thinking with NFC, it stands for near field, doesn't it? So it's got to be within an inch of the tags that we use before it's read. So the chances of a like on the train, a false negative is very, very minute, I would say. However, if you were sat next to someone on a train and they saw the NFC sign, if they were, so inclined, they may just try to use their phone or whatever. But
yes,
I don't think so. I think it'd be almost like, being touched on the train. It's like very, very close. So the QR works because of it's concealed. The ID card's concealed inside the bracelet. Well, that said, we have products where the QR is visible. We have it's like a military ID tag, and it's got a QR code on the front, and people love those. They really do. But then it's right next to the neck, so you'd need to be quite invasive to take a phone and start scanning someone if they just stood in front of you. It's unlikely, I think, to happen.
Yes, yeah. Now, so where I see you have a couple of ideas, and you've brought to my attention your walk alone personal safety. Explain to me that this is a new service and a new product that you've unveiled.
It's totally, well, it uses exactly the same technology that we're using, but we've just had to kind of re-engineer it a little bit because it now becomes a button in the center of somebody's screen that can be pressed if they find themselves in danger, if they become scared or they don't feel safe for some reason or other. So yeah, it is predominantly it's the same technology. It sends alerts it uses the exact same database. So you would need to be a Uidme user and have a profile before you could actually get the walk along, and it is brand new. I mean, I've been finishing things off just today on the.
Oh, is this an app lead on the?
No, it's not an app. But that said, it could well be if the take up is considerable. What we did is late 2021. Put an email out because I was talking to my developers, and I was put an email out just basically asking. I put a simple page up with a short survey, and it was that thing about asking your customers what they think. And I also wanted to know when they said they liked the idea and they kind of filled in this short survey, it's 2-question survey. Who did they have in mind when they completed that? Was it for them? Or was it for someone that they know and love, And obviously got a mixed bag of responses, but the responses were so great that it was worth getting the developers to re-engineer and code it. And then we had to obviously test it because it does work slightly different. It when it sends the alerts out to the emergency contacts, it first of all grabs the from the GPS coordinates, grabs that kind of Google Maps reference and appends that to the SMS alert. So we needed to kind of test that as much as possible with as many different mobile service providers, and that was really difficult. There's about 700 different numbers, prefixes, the 07 in the UK anyway.
Yes.
07, so we did some testing on that. Then we did some, like, literally we were sitting in different places and testing it and saying, I'm outside the post office, what's it saying? And they're saying, yeah, it's like you're on the map kind of thing. So it's pretty accurate. I mean, it's very it's very good.
So tell me how exactly it works with if someone was walking, male or female, walking along. Like this story just brings me back to during COVID lockdowns, and Ashley Murphy, a 23-year-old Irish primary school teacher in Ireland. She was walking along the canals and she was murdered in broad daylight on the 12th of January 2022. Actually, earlier this year. Now Ireland came out in force, and just especially Irish women came out in force and said, enough is enough, so it's not an app, but so how does someone trigger the alert?
Right, so the first thing they need to have is a Uidme profile. They can actually get that free, so they can register, and they register, they put in all the same details as like you would have done for your son, obviously not word for word, but that's pertinent to them. The only thing that may not be appropriate is that they might not have a medical condition. So they can just put in that field, they can put, none, and that's it. But all the other information, such as their emergency contacts and other information that might be a good idea in an emergency. So, if they want to leave the blood group and the allergy information, all that, they can leave that if they wish to, but they don't need to. Once they've got that profile and they've got the walk along service active, then they can literally, if they feel that they're in a situation where it could be dangerous. So, for example, if you say the girl was walking up, the lady was walking along the canal. If a girl leaves a nightclub and gets separated from her friends, those kind of situations, then they can they access the tool. And it puts a simple button in the center of the screen, and it literally just says on the button, send alerts. Now, everything else is pre-configured, the names and the contact numbers of their contacts. So when they arm it and that button becomes live, it's ready.
Right.
And it's on, and that's that. And if they feel in danger and they feel they need to press it, then they just obviously light.
So it's not an app. Is it a physical button? Is it or no?
No. It's a on-screen button.
On-screen button. Brilliant. Yeah.
To some extent, you would kind of like need to be ready yourself. You need to have that screen up and ready.
Yes.
Once it's there, and if you're feeling unsafe, then you can press it, and then it sends the alert. And the alert is very, very the wording in the alert is purposefully quite alarming. It says, Justin, it's Lee. I feel, I'm in danger, or I feel scared, or I feel unsafe. I need a help. And
the nice thing is, if a jogger was going along, for example, and you see joggers that they have their phones attached to their arms.
Yeah.
The nice thing is they could have that button ready to go and ready to press.
Yeah.
On screen. Now, does it work on a locked screen on the phone, or do you have to unlock the phone?
No, they would need to unlock the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, I have looked at there's various Bluetooth devices which there's a possibility, because you can use Bluetooth devices, like, for example, to operate the shutter. If you're using your camera app.
Yes.
So we will look at again, if the take up's good enough, then we'll look at integrating that. But that's probably more than likely going to come if it goes to app.
Yes.
What we felt is that we've got a perfect tool with Uidme to trial this, to see what the take up is like. And the interest has been really high. We put a video up today. It's obviously not, literally it was today. It's not had many hits yet. But the survey that we did back in the late part of 2021 showed us that because there's 20,000 users on the Uidme.
Wow.
You know, so it's a good number of people to be asking, not too much, obviously, you know, because you know what it's like with emails. You've got to try to get a balance of, you've got to keep the business going and sales coming in. You want to tell people new information as well. And then there's also that other area where you want to develop further for the future. And with the high profile cases like the one that you mentioned over in Ireland, I'd not actually heard of that one myself. But back in 2021, I was very much thinking about Sarah Everard, who was
That's right.
Yeah, you kind of, you know.
Yeah, I've heard of that case, yeah.
And that to me they're all terrible cases, but that one had that extra kind of horror because of was he called Cousins, the guy, the off-duty policeman?
Yes, yeah.
A policeman, you know, so he will have had a card, his ID card. So that's what was really on my mind back in 2021, thinking, could we do anything? Is there anything we could do with what we've got, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And now you mentioned actually COVID. Did things slow down, or was it a time to just develop during the lockdown of COVID?
You know something? This is no word of a lie, because I know that people sometimes, you know, they exaggerate just to try to make things look bigger. I won't exaggerate. I'll always be honest, I'll be really transparent. I've got a really small team here, and COVID was incredibly busy. And I'll tell you why, because at first, obviously, I think everyone panicked. And then you kind of realized, as a small business, realize that actually with the furlough scheme and people not having the same kind of expenses, I should say, overheads to their life, then there was more kind of money, and they were buying. So face mask exemption cards for the people, because obviously like things like asthma, COPD, physical and mental impairments, they all fell under the government's kind of guidelines for having a genuine face mask exemption card. So we said, well, we've already got this database. We can make cards. We have various machines that are right behind me that where we can make cards. Why don't we do a face mask exemption card? And we have on the site, we called it the face mask exemption splash.
Right.
Someone could literally scan the card and hold the phone up. Because there were stories of people being in post offices being abused verbally, saying, you know, why are you not wearing a face mask? You know, and poor things like they had asthma or COPD.
Yes.
Or they just couldn't wear one. So we did that, and then further on down the line, foreign face mask exemption cards. So if you go to Italy, France, even now, you know, they're quite strict on you wearing face masks in public places.
Yes.
So we got translators to professionally translate all the cards, you know, and all the medical conditions.
And you know what, like, and it even goes back to the bracelet again. Like, the lovely thing is, if someone scans a website, that website, if you even on a mobile phone on a QR code, it's probably going to translate the details for you anyways and say, oh, right. And what I love is, like, I know even from the UID portal, you can load up 3 or 4 different documents. So what I did was I loaded up the word autism in 3 or 4 different languages, because I know, hopefully, in a year's time, I'm hoping to do a foreign holiday with my family. So I have the Spanish language as well in it, you know. So, yeah. Sorry, that was sort of a bit of a sidetrack.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
that's really good. And you're right. I think, I mean, I know that I use Chrome. Do you use Chrome? Google Chrome?
Yes.
Yeah, so I use Chrome, and it often it will. I think it sometimes does it on its own. It kind of translates something into English, or you can just right click and it says translate to English if it's not in English, and it does a very good job. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We for the foreign face mask exemption, again, like, it's a good idea for 2 reasons. Because if they've got a genuine medical condition, then they should really be carrying a medical ID card, and the face mask exemption cards do 2 jobs in one. So we've had diplomats from, where was she from? I think it was Denmark, who travel to all different countries in Europe, and she had a full range like of cards done in all languages.
So, like, I've given examples there of like children going missing and stuff like that. I'm sure having 20,000 customers on your database, you hear of good news stories all the time. Have you any that you can share?
There are so many. I mean, there literally are. Before we started focusing on Google, because obviously when someone signs up, their email address, unless they choose to unsubscribe, then they go on like they'll receive emails for a period of time, and the first 90 days is a kind of the window, if you like. And do you know, it didn't occur to us for quite some time to just stick an email in saying, if you like the service, any chance of a Google review, you know, or a review of some kind.
Yes.
So recently we did that, and we've already got like 200, I think there's 250 reviews in a relatively short period of time. And the thing that strikes me as interesting is people are so candid with the reviews. It's not just a case of giving 5 stars and saying, you know, great service. They literally write, they tell you about the medical conditions, they tell you about how it gives them peace of mind. And there's a few there. I did a few videos, I think, for Instagram, where I sat in the garden and I read the reviews, just a few, you know, and the ones where they said this has saved my life were always, they do like pluck at the heartstrings, because you think, wow,
you're making a difference.
You know, the system's making a difference.
Yeah.
The system is, you know, the work of a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a group of people. I can do the coding all on my own. In fact, my coding skills are so rusty, they're like an old rusty nail now, you know, because I'm focusing on other things. So to answer that question, you just need to have a look at the Google reviews for Uidme, and they are genuine reviews. They're not fabricated, you know. And you can tell, you know, you read them, you can tell.
Yeah. Look, like I have peace of mind. Like I usually take off the bracelet off my son when he gets home. But every time I go out now, it's sort of like before he gets in the car. It's just a peace of mind that, God forbid, if I turn my back and he runs away from me, you know. And you know what? It's peace of mind because there's such a lottery of a waiting list, and I'm sure it's the same over in England, to try and even get an autism service dog. So we've applied. There's 3 different charity groups that do the service dogs.
Yeah.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe we'll get one at some stage. But you know, and because he's pre-verbal at the time, you know, that it is. That's it. Like, what would be your most popular product? You mentioned the dog tags, but would you say the bracelets would come second place, or?
No, the bracelets, the Velcro bracelets that you've had are the most.
Yes.
I mean, again, the constraints that you're working with say Amazon, I probably wouldn't be on my own saying this, but Amazon is a really back in 2014, you could list something on Amazon in the morning, and by the afternoon you were getting sales. You know, it was such a good environment. Now, when you look, there's a lot of, you know, without being kind of, no racism at all, but it's absolutely polluted with Chinese products. And the Chinese merchants get subsidies, so they can send things for free. So sometimes you think, well, why can I buy something from China for like 99 pence with free postage? How on earth are they doing it? And it's because the government pay for the shipping.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not as easy anymore to get your listing selling and making, unless you use, I think they call them black hat tactics, you know, which is paying for reviews and things like that. You know, we've all fake reviews, but that's so what we do is we will take the wristband and we'll say, well, this is so for example, an autism wristband, and then we'll take the same wristband again, duplicate it, and this time it's an asthma wristband, and it is because of the cards inside. You know, there's no.
But like, there's so many competitors there, Lee, that as you mentioned, that can that are making these autism wristbands, Asperger's wristbands, diabetes, whatever, but you don't know what the quality is like coming from China, and that's no racism either. It's like you don't know what the quality is like.
No.
I've seen other ones that, oh yeah, you can get a little metal tag. I know that having something that you attach to a bracelet, my son mounts everything, so he's going to chew that off. The lovely thing about having a hidden ID card inside of a Velcro bracelet is he doesn't know that that's in there, unless he's able to physically get that wristband off. And with the amount of Velcro you put on that wristband, he's not going to pull it off.
Yeah, that's true. And that's a good point. What you said there about the quality of the products that you get from China. I do know, because do you remember earlier in the recording where I said that initially I purchased this range of wristbands just to supplement the sales of a reflector that.
Yes.
Well, that company was in Canada, and they made the wristbands, and they were beautiful quality, really nice quality. And then sadly contacted me. We've been dealing with them for years, 5 years or so. And they contacted me and said, we're not doing them anymore. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I had a Chinese company that had made me some sports ID wristbands, which were nice and good value for money and strong and, reflective, etc. And I had them do the medical ID inside one, which is ones that you had. And when they arrived, they were terrible. I mean, I had, I think there were 5,000 arrived, and they were dreadful.
Just things that you just said to yourself, you couldn't even sell.
No. The materials was poor, the workmanship was poor, and it was terrible. So I literally had to going back to in 2012 when I started the business. And here's the funny thing, is that I took a course. I was working for the council, and we used to get like the opportunity to do courses, a discount course, and I paid £40, 40 UK pounds, and I took a 10-week course to learn how to sew on a sewing machine.
Right.
And the reason I did that is because I knew that I wanted to make this reflector, and I knew that I wanted it to be sewed. And I eventually I did 6 of the lessons. I only needed to know how to do a straight stitch, that I needed to do. And I took 300 of these reflectors to a cycle show in Birmingham, UK, and I sold out. But years later, when I got let down on the medical ID wristbands, at least I could cash in on them sewing skills, because I was able then to go to locally, girls locally who operate machines and say, this is what I want. And I knew I had that, the knowledge of,
even the wording of knowing what type stitch, like my wife is good. It's good with a sewing machine as well, But she once said, you need to put a back stitch in that. I was like, what? Yeah, no. I have my old scouting background as well, so I've sewed on badges, but I've nearly sewn my finger onto the uniform as well. Also,
yeah. I was having a look at your website earlier about the scouting. Yeah, well done. It's great.
Yeah. So wow, what a journey you've had with this company. Like, so how many is involved? It's yourself, your wife, I believe.
There's three of us, and sometimes 4. So, and then that's kind of like in-house, if you like, and then separately, the website and all the kind of coding skills is a web development and coding kind of operation. Who potentially could do the app as well for walk along. It's interesting you mention an app, actually, because a lot of people have said, does Uidme have an app? And originally we didn't want to convolute anything. We didn't want people to be thinking, do I have to download an app in order to get the information from this?
Yes, of course.
We wanted it to be web technology, because that would, that seemed like the most simplest thing to do. In fact, sometimes to say no app needed, it is actually like, right, okay, because everyone expects it these days,
Yeah, and it is a good thing, because people think, if it's an app, does that equal that you need to have a subscription to be able to to read someone's documentation.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and that's the key thing, that it's as simple as either the QR code, the phone number that could be written on the tag, or the NFC. Now, earlier on, you mentioned about your walk alone, and you said about integrating Google and Google Maps.
Mm.
Will this be a thing that you, if it after trial and testing, if it works well, that you could also integrate it with the wristbands, that if someone opens up the file and looks at my son's file, I can see exactly where he is too, or he or she is?
Well, that was asked quite some time ago. Not so much for autism, but I mean the I was thinking specifically more. It was like dementia patients, and
Right.
which is, I mean, I guess the condition isn't really important. It's can it do it or not? Well, the walk alone, when we tested walk alone, any problems that we did have with it were related to basically related to whitelisting of the URL that goes in. So if you imagine, if you're advertising a product and so you've got a static URL, and then you could get that whitelisted quite easily. But when it becomes a dynamic URL, like every single one's different, then it became problematic. So we had to go through this this process where we just like giving them example after example, because you know what it's like whenever you submit a ticket, they want to see examples. So we had to do that, and then they sent us a list of like this 750, I think it was at the time, mobile service provider prefixes. So the first 5 digits in the UK of a mobile number. It might be that, say, BT have 50 different prefixes, and and Vodafone have another 100 or whatever. But it was trying to get as many of them whitelisted for the dynamic URLs, and that's really been the challenge. So the difference with the alerts that are sent out as part of Uidme, so for medical purposes, is that I think that's the core service. So that's the one that they start off with that. Well, historically they started off with that, and it absolutely must work.
Yeah, and because it's the first step.
Yeah.
Someone's responding and found the patient, whether the patient has fallen ill or whether someone has got lost. In which case, they've activated the information. That's the primary. That you need to know, like, okay, has this person got a medical condition or what's happened? And it really doesn't matter afterwards finding out if it's Joe Blogg or Jane Smith that has responded. They have that child or adult's information to assist them, and so like anything after that is a luxury, really.
Yeah, but so the question of, could we incorporate? I mean, I think to see how the walk along goes, and then potentially add the maps feature as an option, so that you would have the option to say, well, do I toggle this switch to say I want the map or not?
Yes.
But currently, whilst we're seeing how the walk along goes and the take up, and then obviously the feedback as well, because that's really important, and then ironing out any issues if there are any. The Uidme, it just works, unless a mobile phone's been purchased, say, in a different country. So like where your phone is purchased and registered plays a big part on whether those alerts work. So like, for example, if you buy a mobile phone in the UK and it's registered in the UK, and then you travel to Spain on holiday or Greece or wherever, then the Uidme alerts will still work because it's routing through the UK and then coming to the handset. If you purchase your phone in Australia, and if you registered your phone in Australia and then happen to come to the UK, it might not work because the service providers over in Australia have different, the law is different, on receiving bulk SMS it. Well, it's classed as a bulk SMS. It's not actually. It's a very individual one-off SMS when you alert, but the law is different. So, that's why being in Ireland, I would always recommend somebody to test it first. Now, obviously, you didn't have any problems with yours, so that's a good thing. And we've got many customers that have purchased in Ireland. So,
and getting to that question, like, what is your audience? What is your customers? Like, I'm guessing England being the largest, but I guess you've sold internationally with this.
Yeah, and again, before Brexit, we used all the Amazon. Amazon is the king in terms of like online marketplaces for us anyway. So Amazon sales would represent probably about 80% of our sales altogether. So before Brexit, we traded on the Amazon UK, Spain, Italy, Germany, and France. And then also, I think they opened up the Netherlands, and there's one a week at the moment. They're opening. They're just.
Yes, yeah. Like even us buying Amazon stuff, like it's nearly delivered next day,
Yeah.
And I think like, but I bought that from the UK and the Brexit and customs. How did it get over here so quickly? They obviously have a place here in Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah. But since Brexit, it's become fraught with difficulty. And there's also translation issues as well, with if we send a product out that's purchased in Germany, for example, and it's got English, the silver label on the back of the ID cards, if that's in English, then it's not brilliant. Really, it should be in German. It should be good.
Of course. Yeah.
So for that reason, we have customers across Europe, but the lion's share is definitely UK, Northern Ireland, and Ireland.
Yeah, super. Now, Lee, I've taken up a lot of your time, and I know that you like to try and get to bed at 8 p.m. So I as I look at my clock here at the bottom of my screen, if people want to find out more about UID, where do they go?
Right. So just you can Google UID.me. It should come up the top in terms of the search results. But if for any reason we don't, then it's U. So it's the word U, Y or U -ID.me.
I'm really looking forward, Lee, to seeing what extra services and products come along the way. I think it's a much needed service. You and your team. You say the product makes the service work, but like it's the concept as well from you and the team to be able to do something like this that is helping me as a parent of a child with autism and other people with medical conditions, that it gives peace of mind. And I wish you the best with Walk Alone. Like I think that could be a great product that's going to come down the line, and I think that's going to be taken up a lot, hopefully taken up a lot by young and old. And are you you're going to keep the Walk Alone under the UID.me website?
Well, the Walk Alone it does have its own URL, but ultimately it's a part of the UID.me package. So currently, but it's a watch this space, I guess. That Justin, it could be that if that goes well and people like it, it's strange because even with the medical products and things like Walk Alone, you develop these services, but you really don't want them to ever be used.
Yes, of course.
It's like there's so many.
Yeah, I never want that card to be scanned. Yeah, absolutely. But
that's the paradox, is that it almost feels like ironic, saying we'll see how it goes, and if take up is good. I mean, obviously, you need to run the business, but you're kind of like hoping that it's never needed, or that at least if Walk Alone was ever needed, because UID.me, it's like you asked about. Good stories to share. There have been lots. I mean, there was, like I say, probably just best off looking at the Google reviews and just having a read through. But you want this for people to feel that they've got peace of mind. Mm-hmm. If it's ever used, I mean, think about the ramifications of a male or a female feeling so scared that they've got to press that button.
Yeah.
You kind of like don't want to think of it, but you know that sadly these things are needed.
And Lee, even going on that, like, you say the button on the phone, like that's one thing. But I think, and I can see why the bracelet is so popular.
Yeah.
Because God forbid, if I seen someone on the ground that's fallen over or in and you think that they need medical help, right? You might reach for your phone, you might try and communicate with the person, but if they're non-responsive, you don't want to be reaching into their pockets to try and find a wallet to pull out a card and see they got a medical condition, or be pulling around their neck, especially if they're a woman. Like, you could be accused of anything. At least with a bracelet and a Velcro, and it clearly says on the bracelet medical information inside. You pull that off, and like that's the great thing about a bracelet. In comparison to.
That's interesting, that, Justin, because some years ago it was me that did the call. I contacted our local ambulance service is Lancashire, and I contacted them and asked about protocol, because I'm personally not a first aid, I'm not a medic, or about their kind of protocols and processes, and they said, well, in the event of an emergency, our paramedics would check around the wrists and the neck, and then that's it.
Right, wow, that's interesting to know.
Yeah, it is, because obviously it makes sense as well, because they're checking the wrist anyway for a pulse.
Pulse, yeah.
Right, so, and even sometimes the neck as well, they may check for a pulse. But then anything beyond that, and they would leave to A&E,
Right, yes, yeah.
Which is a, it's a good thing to know, because.
But it could be too little, too late at that stage.
Yeah, it could be. But the thing about the paramedics is that a lot of customers, a common question for us at Uidme has been, do all the paramedics are they trained up on this product? Well, no, not specifically, but they're trained up on, it's a core part of their job to check the wrists and for a pulse. And so if they see something that says medical ID inside and ignore it, then kind of so. But
even if you're putting it, like, forget even pulse, if you're putting someone into a recovery position, you're probably going to see, as you put them into the recovery position, oh wait, hold on, they're wearing something on their wrist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The question to me always seemed like, it's a bit like asking a waitress has she been trained on how to pour something. It's a similar thing. It's like so obvious that if they see something that relates to medical and they're treating someone for a medical, then they're going to check, and that it would be it wouldn't be good professional practice to ignore it.
Yeah.
Could you answer that one?
Exactly. Lee, it's been great talking to you.
You enjoyed it, Justin.
U-ID.me is the website.
Justin, can I just say to you as well, thank you so much for your personal custom, and thanks for having me on today. It's been really good to talk to you. So keep in touch.
I will, of course. Thanks, Lee. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Our thanks to Lee Cunningham for joining us on the All Things Techie podcast. That is episode 58. If you like to comment, you can do so by visiting our website, www.allthingstech.ie. You can tweet me directly at Justin or Dawson. All the details on our website. And until next time, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this podcast with some of your friends. And we'll talk to you very soon in episode 59, where I'm going to ask you, how did you leave that WhatsApp group that you really wanted to leave? Goodbye.